Hello fellow nerds, and welcome to Nerd Chat. I'm your host Steven, Nick's your studio producer in the back, and today I'm joined by Bruce Schafer.
Good evening.
Thank you for being with us tonight.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Bruce is an executive committee member and one of the founders of ORTOP, the Oregon's Robotic Tournament and Outreach Program. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. So, how did you start your career as an educator, and what prompted you to move into more of a management role?
My education role was a bit of an accident. I had been an engineer and an engineering manager and a founder of a small software company. And as part of that, I ended up chairing an education committee and got interested in education. Always had been, but it expanded. I ended up teaching undergraduate and graduate classes for both PCC and PSU, a bit later Oregon Graduate Institute, and that was all part-time stuff. And then that led to a one-year job helping create a new degree program, and that turned into a more long-term job in management. So it was one thing led to another situation.
Okay. Do you prefer to manage adults or kids more?
Generally adults, partly because it's easier to relate at my age to people that are approximately the same age, but also because in the youth programs I'm involved with, by working with the adults, each of them is often working with a bunch of young people, and so my impact can be expanded by working with the adults who work with the young people.
Okay. So how did you get involved with robotics, and what about with founding ORTOP?
The robotics question is a bit of a shaggy dog story. When I was with the university system, somehow I was contacted by a professor who was interested in working on a youth robotics program. A friend of his, an inventor, had come up with the very creative idea that young people, particularly young women, like horses, and if we could create robotic horses, maybe they'd be good enough to march in parades. And the idea was sound, and I think it may have been done by now, but at the time it was pretty difficult. And while the kids involved got a lot out of it, my concern was it was going to be hard to scale it up. It required doing everything from scratch. But that prepared my mind by accident to learn about First Lego League a few years later, and that did seem scalable because it was using standard kits that Lego had created and a program that had already been pioneered by a nonprofit back east in Manchester, New Hampshire. As you know, that's FIRST, which is short for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology.
Okay. Do you have any STEM success stories that you'd be willing to share?
Well, been involved with a variety of things. Probably my proudest is the early involvement with bringing First Lego League here to Oregon. It was probably 2 or 3 years old in the Northeast and the Midwest, but really hadn't gotten started very much on the West Coast yet. And when I heard about it, I contacted them initially just so that I would be able to tell young people about it. But they said, well, we don't have it in Oregon. Can you help? And I said, well, that's not why I called. And they said, well, who do you work for? And I said, well, the university system. And they said, do you know the people at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry? And I said, yeah, a few. And that led to a meeting with OMSI people, Intel people, university people, Girl Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, and everybody wanted to help. So it started out as an all-volunteer program, and gradually as the program grew, we ended up having enough flow of donations to be able to hire a part-time person, and now we have a variety of full-time people. Originally, it was added on to my day job because we needed a host for it, because it wasn't a nonprofit, it was a program that we were putting on, and that's why the 5 letters in ORTOP end with P for program. It became a program in the university system, even though it was substantially a volunteer effort. It had to have a home, and it needed somebody to keep the books. And so we got a little bit of free office space and some free bookkeeping. And it wasn't until many years later that we created a separate nonprofit, and the program has continued to grow from there.
So as you interact with students, what kinds of things do they do that make you like really happy?
Well, the tournaments tend to be late in the season. I don't see too much going on during the team meetings, but I can gather from what I see at the tournaments that the whole season is about learning and fun. And that's what I've always believed in, that there's a lot of high-quality learning going on in the classroom, but to extend the classroom day and to motivate young people to explore the possibilities, it needs to really be a combination of learning and fun. And I consistently see that at tournaments. Young people cooperating, being creative, enjoying what they're doing, being innovative, challenging themselves, and accomplishing things. One of my favorite metaphors is a new team may not get any awards, but they may go from 0 to 40 in the first year and feel like they're still struggling because they feel like they ought to be going 60 or 70 by analogy. And it may not be until the second or third year that they're up to that speed. Their learning may not be quite as fast, but their accomplishments may be greater, and they may start receiving awards. But it's not about the awards. It's about learning and fun, opening their eyes to the possibilities, so that when they get to college and after college, they can make informed decisions about what they want to do with their life. A lot of young people won't end up doing robotics or even engineering, but the things they learn about working in a creative team should last them a lifetime.
So from what you've observed, what are the qualities that separate a Worlds team from other teams?
Probably the number of hours they put in and the tenacity they have in the face of adversity. I think just about any of our teams is capable of going on to the next level. But as I said, it takes a few years, and if you keep it at it enough years, you build up the additional skills needed to go to the next level. It also is somewhat proportional to whether they put in 4 hours a week or 20 hours a week, maybe even more towards the end of the season. There's a lot of evidence that people have talent, but to really nurture and develop that talent, it takes a lot of energy and time and tenacity to build it up to a certain accomplishment level.
I was also wondering, do you have any special stories about attending Worlds?
I've only been once, actually. Been so busy here in Oregon in a variety of ways. The year I went, I was a first Lego League judge. I'd been a judge, of course, here in Oregon many times, but they did it a bit differently at Worlds, and probably the most exciting thing for me personally was to see the mix of kids from the U.S., from foreign countries, and including teams that came from very impoverished backgrounds that were still able to accomplish a lot, attend the World Festival, and go away after sharing their accomplishments with kids from all over the world.
So are you involved with FIRST activities directly or just as a representative from Oregon?
Primarily Oregon. I've been involved with ORTOP since the beginning. Until a couple years ago, I was volunteer executive director and the board chair. I'm still on the board, but now a bit less active. But about the time I started phasing out of the volunteer executive director role, and we hired a full-time executive director, I got involved with a new project with National at the First Tech Challenge level. They were interested in creating videos about how to use a new drag and drop programming language called Blocks, and I was able to work with them and learn from them on how to edit videos, how to capture videos in a variety of formats, how to edit in the sound, probably analogous to creating an interview on video, except some of the details were different. And we have been able to create a whole series of videos that have been posted on YouTube. My original motivation was to do it for Oregon teams, and actually my first few videos were not affiliated with First in New Hampshire, but the videos started getting watched by teams in other states, and so it just seemed appropriate to work with the people that knew more than I did and create more videos so that more teams could learn more from the videos. Not all teams need video to learn. Some would prefer different formats like in writing or in-person workshops, etc. But a lot of them seem to benefit from having videos at least as an option to learn about how to program a robot.
I was also wondering if you had one wish for teams in general to do this year, what would it be?
Probably take what they've learned so far and take it to the next level. That's kind of a generic answer. Keep having fun, keep challenging themselves, and be innovative. Understand that not everything you're going to try is going to work. Some people say the essence of engineering is learning through failure. That's probably something you've experienced. And it's a life skill. Oftentimes in school, we think that making a mistake on a test is a sign of not getting it. But in fact, making mistakes in design is how you get it. Without failing, you don't truly understand it. It's when it works after several failures that you actually understand what you're doing.
I was also wondering if you had a wish for like one specific team. Like if they did this, they'd be like so awesome. Like do you have like one wish specifically?
I don't have a single thing. I'll go by what I said before, plus sharing what they've learned and their excitement so that other people can get involved. In some cases, that's sharing with students that are younger than them. Maybe we have 4 programs, so a First Tech Challenge team might have an opportunity to share with young people that might join First Lego League. They might share with adults that will end up being coaches or judges. We're always looking for more volunteers, and we're always looking for more sponsors.
Okay, I was also wondering what advice you would have for students looking for a career in STEM.
I would go by something I heard from somebody even older than me, and that is if you learn enough about something, you'll probably find some part of it that you enjoy. STEM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and math, and each of those 4 disciplines have a lot of subdisciplines. So by exposing yourself to a variety of them, you're going to find a few things that you particularly enjoy, and if you get the right education and have the right tenacity, you'll probably be able to create a career out of it. If you decide it's going to be a different career that's not STEM, what you learned about creative teamwork and science, technology, engineering, and math will probably still help regardless of the career choice.
Now that you're kind of retired, what do you do that like gives you energy and like excites you? Do you have any retirement hobbies by chance?
Well, you've heard about one of them, creating the videos. I'm looking at creating another one for this season, and I hope to do some more videos for future seasons. I've also renewed my interest in amateur radio recently. Here in Oregon, amateur radio is part of emergency preparedness. We don't have hurricanes here, fortunately, but someday we're going to have a big earthquake, and amateur radio may be a key part of emergency preparedness. So I'm learning more about amateur radio, which is something I did when I was your age, actually, originally.
I was also wondering if you were involved with Oregon Game Project Challenge at all, and if so, what was your involvement like?
There was a professor, if I recall correctly, a professor from Western Oregon University that got the idea that designing games would be another good STEM learning opportunity. And he talked it up with me, and at the time, as you know, I was with the university system. I forget exactly how we connected, but the Software Association of Oregon had an education committee. Their chair got interested in the same idea, so we held a series of meetings, and he and I were directly involved together for the first couple of seasons, and then I got busy with things like First Lego League, and he kept it going for years, and as last I heard, it was still going strong.
Yeah, I've actually myself been involved with it for the past, this is my 4th year I'm going into now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
That's a nice coincidence.
So I was also wondering if you could tell us a bit about the blocks and App Inventor videos you've created, and if there's an advantage to using those over, say, Android Studio.
Be nice if we had a whiteboard and I could draw some blocks. Some people have heard of Scratch, which is a way of programming. A rough analogy is you could design robots by starting with pieces of metal or pieces of plastic, but it's a lot easier to create a robot if you've got a kit. And the blocks programming language is like a kit of programming things, and you can put them together in many different ways. The blocks are stored in trays, and you open the trays and pull out a block and place it on the screen, open another tray, pull out a block. If they're not compatible, it won't plug them together. If they are compatible, that may not be correct, but at least they're compatible, they'll plug together. Once you've got it plugged together and you think it's complete, you can have the robot executed immediately, because it's the way blocks works is the actual putting together the program is being done on a sophisticated cell phone that lives on the robot, and the testing cycle can be pretty quick. It's probably not going to work, but maybe you have a guess as to why it didn't work. You make a change, you can try the change. You don't want to randomly make changes until it works, but at least you can fix your bugs rather rapidly, and or you can step back and say, we need a new design, this is not working. To address your question about what the advantage is, most professional languages are line by line, and learning them, you need to learn a bunch of terminology, you need to learn some syntax. It's like learning a foreign language, and if you're 5 years old, learning a foreign language is something natural about the brain, but when you're 16, learning a foreign language is not all that easy, and it's even less easy for somebody my age. It's easier initially to be able to use things that don't require learning a terminology and a syntax, and you piece things together. I expect that most teams that use blocks, if they stick with the program in the second season or third season, or maybe even the first season, they'll switch to Java because it has some additional advantages to it, particularly for large programs which are developed collaboratively by a team. It has some professional aspects that are designed for professionals working on a team. But initially, the learning is probably faster in blocks, and about 90% when you learn with blocks applies directly to Java. May not be obvious at first, but it does. And so you haven't lost anything by starting with blocks. Another reason is that some teams have a coach and maybe a mentor that know Java and say, I'm going to show you some Java, and then you can take it from there. But other teams may not have anybody like that, and so it's not going to be easy for them to learn a language at the same time they learn the mechanics and the electronics of the robot. So it's easier for the coaches sometimes to start with blocks and then maybe track down somebody that can help their team learn Java.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
So up next, we'll be showing one of our tutorial videos, so stay tuned for that.